Hello, everybody. Are we live?
Hello. Hello. I believe we are live. Yes. Okay.
Well, then, welcome everybody who's joining us. Maybe we give people a few more minutes just to hop in. Today we'll be talking about PolkaBot, your friendly neighborhood Polkadot bot, which has some really cool powers. And I guess I also have an opportunity to ask any questions about it. Somebody says greetings, so I say greetings back. Hello there, PM.
All right. That's a good confirmation that it's working and people
Can
coming,
see us.
so.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, maybe we can quickly introduce ourselves. So the three heads you're seeing, I suppose you see all three heads at the same time. I'm not sure. Perhaps best introduced by order of best haircut. So I suggest Yuri starts.
That's a tough choice on the haircut there. But yeah, welcome everyone to this let's say webinar / session / spaces where we're going to talk about the PolkaBot and go into a bit of more details in a couple of minutes. But from my side, Yuri here, I'm the general manager at TraceLab, so the core developers of Origin Trail, and been working together with the rest of the team on the proposal. So happy to answer any questions that you guys have here, and as we dive deeper. And I'll stop here. I don't think we need to go further than that. I'll give the mic to the second best haircut, which is Branimir, and then the third best haircut, which is Nikola.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Yeah, so hi everybody. I'm Branimir. I'm one of the founders behind Origin Trail and the CTO. Been building here for a very long time and super excited to talk to you about PolkaBot today. We presented the PolkaBot and the underlying technology actually in depth on Sub-Zero a couple of weeks ago in Bangkok, and we got some really good feedback. So, but any case, we wanna dive very deep today as well. So, if you have any questions or just thoughts you'd like to share on the proposal or generally the technology, feel free to share. This is or post a question. This is the place to do so. We'll also share some links relevant to both the proposal and the underlying tech as well. Yeah, if you want to dive really deep, there's lots of really cool content, including a latest white paper that we published on Origin Trail. So we'll go there. But before we go there, I guess actually second best, because we share first spot, is Nikola with his haircut. He actually the only one who has hair on this call. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Nikola.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, I guess to get any chance at competing with haircut, I need to get more experience, I guess. But yeah, my name is Nikola, and I'm working as a lead blockchain engineer. My main focus, like since start, was Polkadot and building our parachain called NeuroWeb, which is like the decentralized blockchain for AI, built on Polkadot, and it's already running for 2.5 years. And beside that, I'm also attended the first ever Polkadot Blockchain Academy back in Cambridge a year and a half ago. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm quite happy to be here to be able to share with you some details on the exciting new thing that we have for the Polkadot community.
Great. Then I guess, Brana, you mentioned maybe before we dive deeper into the PolkaBot itself, maybe we can spend just a minute or two on the topic of verifiable internet and the white paper that you mentioned, because the PolkaBot as you mentioned, the friendly neighborhood bot for Polkadot education is built on the concept of verifiable internet. And what when we're talking about verifiable internet, I think it's a good thing to kind of explain what exactly we mean, and we can spend a couple of sentences here, and the more you can actually read in the white paper that is available online, so you can have a look at any point in time and for more detail. But the verifiable internet is what we see as verifiable internet is really at the intersection of internet, crypto, and artificial intelligence, and it plays a very important role in the development of artificial intelligence as a whole, and as a consequence also how artificial intelligence and verifiable internet are used within the PolkaBot technical implementation, and why it's really important actually that that verifiable internet is the foundation of everything that we build. And where we see Origin Trail really playing a big role, because it provides that infrastructure for verifiability on the internet that can then be used by artificial intelligence. And we'll go into a bit more details on when we're talking about PolkaBot, and it's some very tangible examples and how this is applied. But overall, we see this as a let's say the foundation that the artificial intelligence needs to kind of develop upon for it to be successful, for it to be verifiable, for it to have value, and not kind of succumb to some of the pitfalls that we see with generative AI today, ranging from on the one side from hallucinations that really kind of can derail any type of serious, let's say, implementation of or application of generative AI in industries where accuracy is of critical importance, to really then understanding where the answers are actually coming from, who issued them, how we can verify them. And this is really where Origin Trail, which is the basis on which PolkaBot is built, plays a crucial role through some of the concepts that we'll go into a little bit deeper later. But having that verifiable knowledge available to AI systems to be able to draw upon it and use them is kind of the core concept of this verifiable internet. So I'll stop here. Just Brana and Nicola, feel free to, let's say, amend me if I missed any important things before we can go into the PolkaBot itself. But I felt like this is a important concept, kind of important notion to have in mind as we're talking through how PolkaBot, why PolkaBot, and how does it work, and what are the core components.
Yeah, I think you're like hitting the hammer, the nail with a hammer on the head. The hammer on the nail. Well, basically, what you introduced is the articulation of the vision for verifiable internet, as we mentioned or presented in the white paper, is that it actually, on the highest possible level, introduces the necessity of crypto for AI. And there's a couple of problems here that are quite obvious, I guess, to everybody. Some of them are not that obvious. For example, hallucination is a problem that we all heard of. I'm sure pretty much most of the people that are listening to us today have in some way or form used some form of AI bot or something. And I remember, for example, some time ago, maybe 6 months or a year ago, I asked ChatGPT about XCM. I asked it like, how can one do XCM transactions? And I remember that it gave me an answer. I have a screenshot somewhere that for XCM transactions on Polkadot, you need to use XCM tokens, which obviously don't exist. But it's a very plausible hallucination well, at the moment of me asking, the state of the art of artificial intelligence. Obviously, there's progress being made, but actually this core property of being able to hallucinate is not going away. This is effectively a feature of these large language models, which we're not saying is kind of a bad thing. You can work with it, but it is an issue, and it's leaving any type of serious decision, be that in some enterprise application or in a crypto space, to something that is able to sort of just, hallucinate in its own way is definitely not the way to apply it. Though that's not to say that it's not useful. Then again, all these models were trained on all kinds of data from the web, data that is not owned by OpenAI or similar companies. So obviously, the question of data ownership comes to play in intellectual property. Web3 is ideally positioned to solve this. With crypto, crypto is all about ownership, right? So we can do so many things here. And then some a little bit less obvious things when you use LLMs, such as bias. Bias is always there, and like it's very common to train on biased data, but it's also about like who controls the actual model. Is it somebody who inherently has their own biases? And when I say model, I mean model in the most generic sense. Consider it as an AI system. It doesn't just have to contain a model. It can contain also data or other pieces or other systems that are relevant for it. And then finally the kind of the maybe the least obvious thing, but it's kind of catching us, is this model collapse problem, which effectively says that the more we train models on model-generated data, AI models, the less precise they become. To simplify it, effectively, turns out that model-generated synthetic data is a shitty input for training LMs, and they deteriorate over time. So as the internet gets filled with more content that comes from LLMs, and they basically lowered the barrier for generation of new content significantly. Now it's very cheap to create, very plausible images, very plausible sentences, all kinds of content. Basically, just synthetic content just became incredibly cheap. So that is obviously going to get into LLMs, and there's already actually a bunch of research that shows that there's deterioration within the biggest models that are currently used today, and we expect this deterioration to grow, especially when we cross that point where human-generated content becomes when there will be less human-generated content than AI-generated content on the web. So these four key problems: hallucinations, data ownership, and intellectual property problem. The problem of bias and model collapse, like these things are basically currently something that plagues basically the whole AI space. So we introduced this notion of verifiable internet as the broadest possible set of technological layers that are there to tackle these problems. And what we're looking for as future users, and that's arguably going to be the world. The world is changing the way we interface with computers and each other. Obviously, it's going to be less of the way we do it today, and more through some form of AI interface. So there will be always, something in the middle, something that just going to make it much easier for us to both communicate or just interact with machines, with cars, with whatever type of systems. And in this particular paradigm where we use AI that has these problems, we need to tackle specific things. The topic of information provenance is incredibly important. So when an AI gives me an answer to something, like, for example, that I should use XCM tokens to send transactions on Polkadot, it should also provide me where it got this idea from, right? And if it cannot show it to me, then maybe it's a very clearly distinguishable hallucination. Or it can, for example, point into Polkadot docs, or it could point to some project documentation, or some specific transaction that happened on chain. So definitely it would be useful if for basically all of the answers we can point to where that information came from, and also properly attribute intellectual property to that. So that would be ideally the case. then obviously have verifiable information. So if you can verify, for example, if you can query on-chain information, that is verifiable because it has the whole chain of events that are tracked on a blockchain, then that's always beneficial, and you can basically verify that what you're seeing actually happened in the specific way. Or off-chain information. There can be information about the real-world assets that's being tracked, for example, in the Origin Trail decentralized knowledge graph. So we need verifiable information, we need information provenance, and on top of that, we believe we also need incentives. So really good incentives for quite high quality knowledge. And what we'll talk about today is really one decentralized AI application, which is PolkaBot, which essentially does just that. It shows you information provenance for each of the questions that you ask it about Polkadot. So if you ask, what is Polkadot, it's gonna return an answer, and it's gonna show you that answer where it actually originated from. It's gonna show you the owner of this knowledge asset. It's going to show you the verifiability primitives that you can use, and it's going to essentially apply all these principles. And perhaps we can also show it while we're at it. I'm not sure we can share a video here. We can show a quick demo of Polkabot in action. Yuri, did you want to? I guess you had a demo ready, right? You wanted to show?
Yeah, sure. I can open it. I can open it quickly, and we can have a quick look at how let's say the beta version of the Polkabot looks like. Just give me 1 second to find the share screen button here. Window. Polkabot.AI. There we go. So maybe just give me a thumbs up when you can see the screen.
Good
Still not
question.
showing?
I don't see it.
Oh, for me it says that I'm sharing. So 1 second.
But maybe because I'm one of the speakers. Okay, now
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay, great, fantastic. So this is the beta version of the PolkaBot.AI, and just ask a question. But just before we go into that, what Branimir mentioned before, or like the whole concept of verifiable internet, and kind of looking at also external sources, let's say, that are off-chain, but also not in the model itself, in the AI model that would be helping you to answer those questions itself, is something that is a concept that we expanded upon, the concept of retrieval augmented generation, that finds certain data around, in this case, for in Polkabot AI case, that would find certain data about Polkadot that is not in the model, so in external sources, and use that data to submit as context to the artificial intelligence model, and that would then answer. And we really, with Origin Trail, expanded that concept into something called the decentralized retrieval augmented generation, where knowledge, highly structured knowledge connected in a decentralized knowledge graph, can come from multiple different parties, multiple different issuers, all with all of the verifiability and traceability properties that Branimir mentioned before. And that is then that decentralized retrieval augmented generation, with all of this linked, connected, verifiable Polkadot knowledge that can constantly grow and be added, is what is used as let's say, the knowledge foundation. And the AI LLM models then just use this as input to provide an answer to a question, for example, like, how can I submit a treasury proposal on Polkadot? Right, so now what it's doing, I asked it a question, it's going on to the decentralized knowledge graph, finding the pieces, the knowledge assets that are related, that could be related to the question that I asked, so that they provide an answer. It's submitting that to the AI model, and then we get a nicely formatted answer to submit a treasury proposal, right, you can follow these steps, and then we can also get links to the actual ecosystem treasury. We can see here what the source knowledge assets were. Now, probably if I open this, you won't see it because I'm sharing a tab, but these are the source knowledge assets, which are connected pieces of knowledge that that are on the origin trail decentralized knowledge graph. They're connected. For each of them, you can see who issued it, what is the of course the knowledge itself, the knowledge graph, and what other knowledge assets it's connected to. And as this education hub that is PolkaBot.AI grows, it grows by essentially adding more of these knowledge assets. So if we see that some question, for example, cannot be answered, or that there are new developments, we simply add those knowledge assets to the decentralized knowledge graph. And the nice part is this can be added not by anyone, because it's an open source system. So that means that whoever wants to participate in PolkaBot.AI, they can actually add knowledge on Polkadot, and in the context of what we also proposed, actually be rewarded by adding expanding the knowledge of the Polkabot ecosystem. And that's an important piece, because as with any education, we have different, let's say, groups of users, different levels that have different levels of knowledge. So interacting with all of these static interfaces that are kind of the standard for education now can become quite tedious. People can be discouraged. They can lose their kind of the motivation to find out more, to learn. And the AI really has a lot of potential here to simplify these things, right? So I can really find out about the Polkadot, about any project in the Polkadot ecosystem, by simply asking a question at my own pace, even simplifying it if needed, and verify where the answer is coming from. So really abstracting all of those issues around hallucinations, around bias, around where the source is coming from. All of these things I actually can see and verify. And the exciting part about making this education so accessible is that also it can consist not only of what you would have now, websites and the official sources, but also be a lot more extensive in that sense that we can also include social media, Twitter posts. We can include any streams of data that have real-time data, for example, Polkadot prices from Chainlink. All of these things can be connected in a single knowledge graph that can then be used for this type of a conversational interface, where I can really learn and find out anything about Polkadot in a very, very easy way. So that's kind of one demo. We can submit one more question. For example, we can say, let's say, what is agile core time in Polkadot? Oops, that should have been a question mark. But that's just an example of how the system currently, the beta currently works. And let me just wait for this answer to pop up. Sometimes depending on the complexity of the knowledge underneath, sometimes takes a little bit longer. But here we can see actually that it found agile core time in Gavin's actually keynote speech from Polkadot Decoded 2023, and we can even see the video here. We can look at the source, and this is kind of the core concept of how easy it is actually with Polkabot to ask a question, but also find out where it's coming from. So I've been talking for a while now. I'll stop, and I'll let Brhana and Nicola add to what I've said, or amend if I missed anything.
Yeah, I would like to add a bit more on the knowledge asset part, because that's the most important part here. Because what's all those problems that Brana described, they can be somehow tackled with one core concept that we call AI grounding, which is just put the AI on the earth, connect it to the real knowledge, to the real things. Don't use only abstract things that can be hallucinated, but some real things. And those real things are the knowledge assets on the on the decentralized knowledge graph. And where do they live? It's on the narrow web blockchain. What's happening whenever you create some knowledge, you actually craft piece of data which contains the information, and then with the proofs and everything, you create an NFT. So you present your knowledge as an NFT on a blockchain, and it lives on the narrow web on Polkadot. So everyone is able to create a knowledge asset and can include in some knowledge base, and then you will be able to verify that you are the owner. You can take a look at the history of changes. So if there is some update, it will be stored on the narrow web. If you want, you can sell. So there's a lot of possibilities there for knowledge marketplace and different things, but won't get deeper into that. But generally, you can transfer that knowledge to someone else, to some foundation or some DAO organization, everything. So generally, there is a lot of power in that knowledge assets that we have that are in the background of what's used for creating the Polkabot. And then maybe Barnum wants to add something more on top of it.
Yeah, I think you touched upon this very nicely. So maybe just kind of a different angle on knowledge assets. Knowledge assets are, if we were to call them, if I were to explain it to an AI engineer, I would say they're ownable containers of knowledge and various types of knowledge. It can be in knowledge graph form, it can be in vector embedding form, pretty much multimodal data, but it's structured as knowledge. So it's something that machines can understand, and actually it's much more than data. If I were to explain it to a Web3 engineer, I would say it's a knowledge NFT. So there's an associated NFT that implements ownership and enables all these capabilities of ownership, marketplaces. And by the way, the NFT allows you to manage your knowledge. So you can update knowledge, just like you would push updates to your Git project on GitHub, or like to a specific branch. And each update will have a specific commit hash. Literally the same logic is here. So you can push different knowledge, so you can enrich it, you can include more, and then you can connect knowledge assets across each other. That's kind of the cool part. That's where we get this extremely valuable graph component. And just zooming out a little bit, these knowledge graphs are not an invention of ours. Decentralized knowledge graph is, but like knowledge graphs are essentially a very old proven Web2 technology, which is pretty much under the hood, under everything you've been using, well, these bigger services at least on Web2, Google, Amazon, Netflix, Uber, IKEA, NASA, they all have knowledge graphs. Spotify has a knowledge graph. Every time Spotify recommends you a song, it comes from a knowledge graph. Every time you see a suggestion from Google or Amazon to buy something, it comes from their knowledge graph. And what do? Well, they connect things you did before, that you bought before, that you've done before, with people that bought similar things. And they have, and by the way, knowledge graphs are a branch of AI. So there's a branch called symbolic AI, and it fits really well with this new booming branch called neural AI. So essentially, the DKG, Origin Trail Decentralized Knowledge Graph, connects both of those through the notion of knowledge assets. And in a way, the good thing about it is that the decentralized knowledge graph is a multi-chain decentralized knowledge graph. So you can create knowledge assets on different blockchains in different ecosystem, and they would still be part of the same knowledge graph. Here, when it comes to Polkabot, the whole point is that we actually collectively generate, generate maybe alludes to the word generate AI, but we populate a common jointly owned knowledge graph for the Polkadot ecosystem, and that it can answer as many questions as it knows about. So if it doesn't know about something, it will tell you, I don't know. I'm not going to confidently hallucinate on this. I'm going to give you an answer only if I can point to a source that makes sense. And the way actually that it queries, and maybe Nicola, you can explain a little bit more about the techniques that Polkabot uses to find the right information. are actually also very auditable. And and what I mean by that is when you take an LLM and you ask it something, it's kind of like a black box. You can really, there's really hard way. There's really no way to see like why it gave you a specific answer, where where does this come from. While in the DQG and on Polkabot, you're able to not only see the knowledge assets that are sourced for your knowledge, you're also able to know why exactly this one was coming back, and this comes to the techniques of decentralized retrieval augmented generation, which is a topic of its own. Maybe we can spend a few minutes on it. Would you go deeper, Nicola, on this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can try. I don't want to get people confused, maybe, but generally, what decentralized retrieval augmented system. So it's a framework that we proposed, and it's quite extendable and open for different approaches. But for example, one that we utilize here for building PolkaBot.AI is using LLMs just to help us to understand the question from the user and then convert it to the Sparkle query. And now Sparkle, it's quite similar to SQL. So similar to SQL queries, it's just adapted for the knowledge graph. So knowledge does have some structure, which are triples, saying, for example, Brana is attending Polkabot Twitter Spaces, and then when you write a Sparkle query, you would say who is attending Polka Twitter Spaces, and it will return Brana. But if there is knowledge about me attending and you, it will return all three of us. So we would have like Sparkle generated queries, and we would see from which knowledge are they retrieved, and then in the backend Polkabot AI will return like the results data, what that's fetched directly from the knowledge asset, but also will provide us the info like which are the knowledge assets in case we want to take a look more into what is consisting. For example, that knowledge asset could contain information about three of us attending this, but also information like about the questions, and then you can say who answered questions regarding Polkadot.AI backend, for example. So that's something how it looked like.
Yeah, and I think to just to extend on that, what's really cool here is the types of knowledge that we can have, right? So, and that can be connected into the knowledge graph. So we can add, aside from, let's say, the usual thing that you would consider when educating, trying to learn about the Polkadot ecosystem, going to the website, finding out how things work, reading maybe some news, some blog posts. The knowledge graph can be extended with a lot more than just those core components. We can extend it by adding, for example, Twitter posts and finding out, then asking about what the sentiment, for example, about Polkadot is on social media. That would be one way to use it. Another way would be what I already mentioned before, but to say, tell me how I can stake the DOT token, but I also want to know the price, so that we can incorporate things like price feeds from Chainlink, the Chainlink Oracle, for example, and have that be part of the knowledge graph as well. So it's really a very extensible, very kind of open knowledge base that we can really add these things. And what Nicola mentioned before, we have the LLM helping us on the one hand query the graph. So one way is with the Sparkle queries. The other way is also with actually looking at embeddings and vector similarity search to help find pieces of the graph that are relevant to the question that was posed. And then we also use the LLM to kind of summarize that answer in a very nice and easy way. And that LLM that we use can be any LLM really that is available out there. So this really brings kind of the education down to the Polkabot education on the Polkadot ecosystem to a very nicely, easily consumable level where people can really ask questions based on their level of understanding, education, technicalities, all of these types of things. And it's the exciting piece is it's not only then available on the Polkabot AI website, but it can also be that bot that is answering can be integrated into everything, and we've across different channels, right? So we've seen the beta version already be integrated into the X platform, so which is extremely useful also for raising awareness for other people that might, just come across these answers and become interested in the Polkadot ecosystem as a serendipity moment. So there's a lot of very exciting ways to take, let's say, education from its traditional form and turn it into something that is a lot more exciting, that is a lot more omnipresent, while keeping all of these things, important things around verifiability, sourcing, and understanding why or where certain answers come from at the forefront. And at the end of the day, also being actually built. So the education hub of PolkaBot.AI is also built on Polkadot, right? So newer web parachain that supports that is part of the Origin Trail decentralized knowledge graph is a parachain on Polkadot. So that's another very exciting kind of let's say aspect to the education, because we're using the technology to educate about the technology, which is a really cool thing. Yeah, so I'll stop here in case anybody wanted to jump in and add stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted
Perhaps we
to.
can
Oh,
go. Sorry. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
wanted just to emphasize the importance of this part. Like we like to say, we are getting out of the building, so we are not waiting for people to come to our portal to learn about Polka, but we are like with the integration with Twitter or X, we are actually reaching out to the users. We are tagging it, and we are giving like an easier way to all of the Polkadot community members to expand like our community, to reach out and educate, because the best thing is that we have with the Polkadot is the tech, which is built in the best possible way at the moment, and it's constantly expanding. It's hard to keep up with it, and that's maybe one of the blockers for adoption for people getting into this ecosystem. And with this like easy way where you can just approach anyone on Twitter and just tag a bot to answer their question, to help them, to explain them in a humanly understandable way, it's something like a good way, not only as education but as a marketing way to expand the Polkadot community and invite more people in it.
I think you raise a really great point. And yeah, as a technologist, big fan of Polkadot technology, I have to also admit that I agree with like sometimes we are just we're a very complex ecosystem, and the naming of things in our ecosystem is also complex or different. We got new things, especially now that have been on, the core jam, all of the great stuff that's coming up. If you ask somebody outside of the ecosystem what that is, or even inside of the ecosystem, it's really hard to explain and like or learn. So Polkabot is there to help with this, but it's also a collaborative effort. So not only can you use it on, for example, X or Twitter, and you can in a way use it to respond to somebody who's tweeting about Polkadot. You can also use it basically as a contributor, so be able to contribute knowledge to it, and essentially also populate the knowledge base, which is, from what I know, the first type of project like that in the crypto ecosystem anywhere, being done in this particular way, in the centralized way. Having that said, we're talking about questions. There, we have a couple of questions already in the chat. So there was a question of, okay, there's something about cutting hair, but not that. So there's a question if the technology is usable now, and the answer is yes. So Origin Trail is in version 6. The system you've just seen on the video is though in beta, is usable, and you can build it. So if you're interested in building on the tech, do reach out to us. Best place is to come is to Discord. You can not just meet the team, but even better, you can meet the very vibrant community behind Origin Trail. People are building a lot of exciting things. So not just building, also running nodes of Origin Trail. So to the person who asked this, I totally recommend joining us in Discord, and we can continue the discussion there. Also, the three of us are there, so we can dive deeper into other questions. How can one get involved to populate the ecosystem? There was another question. Does anybody want to take that one?
Yeah, I can hop in. So to populate the idea that we highlighted in the proposal for PolkaBot AI is that anyone can get involved in expanding essentially the knowledge base that feeds the PolkaBot AI through something that we call knowledge mining. And by becoming a knowledge miner for the PolkaBot AI, also becoming eligible for neural and bot rewards. But that's kind of the overall concept of the decentralized knowledge graph as a whole. So it's an open source system. Anybody can contribute to it. Anybody can become, and maybe Nicola can spend 1 or 2 minutes just kind of introducing, because it's relevant to this as well, but introducing the concept of paranets. But anybody can become a knowledge miner. Anybody can contribute to the knowledge base that is that feeds the PolkaBot AI, and also in this decentralized RAG mechanism that is then extracting knowledge. We then have the option to play around with what kind of data, what sorts of data we want to use for the answer. So, for example, if I'm just starting out and I want to just purely use the official, let's say, documentation documents, like the website, the basic documents, and I can just have my answer formula. That's something you can do. Or if you want to have something that includes Twitter posts or some other, let's say, Reddit or whatever type of social media discussions, you can do that as well. So there is a lot of ways that the decentralized RAG mechanism can then also decide which types of knowledge assets you actually want to use. But yeah, going back to just again to the question, because I derailed a little bit. Anyone can get involved. Anyone can contribute, and if of course they contribute quality knowledge, also get rewarded for it through as being a knowledge miner, part of the PolkaBot AI, the Polkadot ecosystem.
Yeah, and I would just add on top of that, like, if you want to build, you can populate the PolkaBot knowledge base, which we could also call a paranet. And for the concept of paranet, just shortly, we can say the paranet is a collection of knowledge assets existing on the chain, but also collection of AI services or knowledge services that are built on top of it. So PolkaBot is one of the services built on top of the knowledge base of around Polkadot. And like, if you're interested into building for different use cases, you can build a paranet for that use case. So is it educational app for UK market, as someone asked, or is it extending the knowledge base for the Polkadot and then building, for example, recommendation-based system for open governance? Like, if we would have knowledge assets about each of governance proposals and the results of the voting, we can then ask, like, for which new proposals I should put my dot to vote in, or what are the most impactful proposals that have been voted in the last 1 year or something like that. So there is like a huge possibility in front of the PolkaBot knowledge base that's behind of it. So.
All right, that's a really good example, Nicola. We have one more question in the chat that I see, which is an interesting one. It says, is it that I can create an entire organization into knowledge assets and have NFTs symbolizing it and sell these NFTs as the representation of the organization? Somewhat like that. Yeah, so essentially that's true. You can create, like, each piece of knowledge you put in one knowledge asset has a corresponding NFT, so you can essentially create a bunch of those that are interrelated. And because they're implemented in this way, you can expose them to an NFT marketplace and essentially put them on the market. If they're buyers, you can sell them. So it's very simple. So consider it as not like your image NFT, but your knowledge NFT. And with these knowledge NFTs, we enable such properties. So, for example, for PolkaBot, all of the things that you've seen so far in this beta phase, we have created, and we basically put them in the DKG so that they can be queried by the interfaces. And by the way, maybe while we're there, we mentioned the X interface, and we mentioned this. We've shown one of the UIs, but I guess best question for Yuri: which other UIs do we intend to see Polkabot in?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I missed or I left out a couple of details. So obviously we have the website itself and X already as kind of showcasing how this could look like as part of beta. But as part of the proposal, we also intend to extend the interfaces to Telegram and Discord, so that kind of having a let's call it the designated bot service there, where people also that are prefer to use Telegram, prefer to use Discord for these types of education things, can simply ask the bots in there. And also some other things like where we proposed also that users that use the website and are actually able to subscribe, for example, to a PolkaBot.AI newsletter that is also AI generated every week. So there are a lot of let's say entry points into how users can start getting educated about Polkadot. So you can come to the website of PolkaBot.AI. You can go on X and ask a question. You can go to Telegram. You can go to Discord. You can get the newsletter sent to you. So there is really, this omnipresence of channels for users to use and get the education. So really capturing, because obviously users have different preferences of on which tools they use, how they use them, and here we really using or kind of taking the approach that users should be able to be educated on the channel of their preference. Oh, and maybe one more thing that I did forget. Yeah, so PolkaBot.AI will also be integrated into the Trace Alliance Academy, which is Trace Alliance Academy is an education hub for the Origin Trail ecosystem, where we will launch a Polkadot learning course. So we'll use this as the training assistant there. So that will be that will also be in there with in addition to some learn to earn campaign. So there's a lot of exciting, I think, really exciting ways that people will be able to interact with PolkaBot.AI and learn about the Polkadot ecosystem very easily.
Awesome. Yeah. Perhaps one thing we don't really mention is what is the plan and when do we want to create these deployments, since you already mentioned them, and perhaps we can highlight that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the idea is to have this. So the beta version with a limited, let's say, scope of knowledge assets is available now. So feel free to go out and test it out, see how the mechanism functions. But we plan on having the version 1 as part of the proposal out by the end of May. So it's we're talking about the next 2 months.
Yeah. So perhaps a bit of a unusual proposal is in the world of Polkadot governance, but we're basically, as you can see, beta is already out, and we're looking to expand on it very quickly and show the results basically within the next 2 months. After that, of course, we're going to be improving on it. So there's I can maybe I can just touch upon that for a moment, but essentially the idea is that if you want to go deep, you can go directly into the proposal, but things such as intent mapping to ensure that we basically also improve the way of answering questions, creating this advancement of the prompting, or rather the querying, on how we can go into the retrieving the best knowledge, and then basically supporting things that are like in kind of a range of like, give me a very technical answer to a range of Eli 5, tell me like I'm 5. And obviously getting feedback from the community, that's a really big point of it, so we understand how we can better make these interfaces work. And this is a common thing I also heard at Sub-Zero quite a bit, is from a few people who are less technical in the ecosystem, that I believe a bunch of Polkadot folks will agree with me when I say that we hear a lot of feedback of our UX not being the best in the ecosystem, somewhat coming potentially from the power of technology. The more flexibility and opportunity and room, the more things you can do, the UX is a little bit more complex. So in this case, we will be trying to tackle this not just by bringing the Polkabot where the users are already at, in Telegram and Discord, in X, which is where most people hang out, right? Crypto Twitter and places like that. Well, other than that, we would also try to improve with direct feedback. So we'd like to also invite all of you to send us your feedback if you use Polkabot, or just give us your opinions. You can hop into our Discord or respond directly to Polkabot. We'll be really, really happy to hear, because this helps us quite a bit to create a better solution. And with this particular solution, like I said, you can also contribute on your own. So a big part of the campaign, which I think we haven't mentioned, is we're basically looking to attract around 25,000 Polkadot related knowledge assets to be created on the DKG, as this really creating this powerful knowledge base. So 25,000 should be a pretty big number. And that also includes distributing 250,000 Neuro tokens and roughly 5,000 DOT among publishers with the most high quality knowledge assets. So essentially, by contributing, you would also be eligible for that pool of tokens as a reward. So do dive deeper if that sounds interesting. Effectively, this will be part of the knowledge mining exercise that we mentioned previously. That is also described in depth in an Origin Trail RFC. So if you haven't heard about knowledge mining before, maybe just in one sentence, just as people do Bitcoin mining. So they give essentially electricity and hash power, hash rate into the network, and get back incentives in form of Bitcoin tokens in return, or coins. The same concept applies for knowledge mining. So if you provide useful knowledge and create signal, populate additional knowledge into the DKG, you will be eligible to get Neuro, the native token of NeuroWeb, in return. So that is part of that Polkadot proposal. PolkaBot proposal, I apologize. All right. Do we have any more questions, perhaps? I guess this is a good moment to stop and look into that. Does anybody have anything you guys want to shoot for or comment? I'm looking at what we got from YouTube. I think we covered that. Nicola, Yuri, maybe anything you guys would like to add?
Yeah, I was also thinking just generally, kind of to go back to the DRAG mechanisms that will be, evolving and deploying as part of the proposal. It's really exciting because it also enables the exposure to other in connection with other ecosystems that have very complementary or can be very complementary in value. So for example, things like I mentioned before when we're talking about for example, price streams from Chainlink, when we're talking about using different models and different ways of accessing knowledge graph data based on different LLMs based on different mechanisms of RAG, for example, connecting to or utilizing the NVIDIA build platform to make certain things easier and faster. So there's a lot of very cool ways once this is done that we have exposure. So Polkadot exposure in other ecosystems that are complementary and also enhance marketing and reach, and could draw in additional people to learn about the ecosystem in a trusted way. I think it's a very cool opportunity to do that.
I think you make a really good point. One of such ecosystems, for example, is the NVIDIA AI ecosystem, for which just last week we've published essentially an integration scheme where you can go check it out on the Origin Trail blog, where essentially there's an entire code tutorial of how you can do decentralized RAG, such as PolkaBot with Origin Trail and NVIDIA models. And that showcases how you can create knowledge assets assisted with NVIDIA models, how you can query the decentralized knowledge graph assisted by NVIDIA models using Sparkle, as Nicola mentioned, and generally a few other things such as similarity search. And like I said, these are just some initial building blocks that can be expanded quite a lot. So one of the aims that we have is that we expose the technology and Polkabot itself to as many communities like that as possible. So showcasing it as one good example of how we can crowdsource knowledge together and create essentially verifiable AI, verifiable internet applications at the intersection of crypto and internet and AI. Essentially, these three stacks of technology. And kind of as a closing thought, I guess from my end, I think the power of such connectivity is something that is that we in the Polkadot ecosystem are best positioned to utilize because of the architecture of Polkadot, of its interoperability, ability to connect different chains together through the relay chain, and just having really great technology. But ultimately, this design for connectivity, well, in a very similar fashion, the decentralized knowledge graph is also designed for connectivity. It presents the most elegant way of connecting knowledge from various different sources, from various different people, AIs, into one data structure that lives on multiple different blockchains and enables essentially building a crowdsourced, collaborative, the biggest knowledge base in the world. That is essentially our mission, and indexing all of this knowledge. And in this case, for Polkadot, we want to start and we want to show how we as a community can build something really special together. So I'd ask you to jump in and support if you find this valuable contribution to the community. And also jump into our Discord and continue talking, or if, let us know if you guys have any questions. Nicola, any final thoughts from your end?
Well, yeah, I would like to use the opportunity just to encourage people to use the advantage they have right now of knowing this before it started, and take the knowledge mining mission for them, and let's start exploring what knowledge is missing. Try to find out which knowledge is not yet included in the knowledge base. Note it down, prepare, and then be ready when the campaign starts, and apply with the new knowledge that you have think of, that you identify that's missing. So apply for it, and then you will learn some precious knowledge on that token on that road.
In the words of Trinizone, noise. Awesome. All right, folks, I think there's no more questions. We're just over the hour. But like I said, if there's any other, just drop into our Discord. We're super happy to chat more. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to chatting with you and Polkabot together. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to
Thanks,
Polkadot.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.